Welcome to Melanated and Spiritually Woke. I'm your host, Adorable Earth Angel. I'm a holistic wellness educator of 12 years with a master's in public health, energy healing of 7 years, and have been a Black female spiritual alchemist my whole life. Each week, we'll be sharing uplifting, spiritually focused wellness practices to best support you in regaining your personal power, or we'll have special guest interviews with the same intention. This show is in service to all those listening, and especially for folks of color who are seeking information to support their physical, mental, and emotional spiritual awakening. These practices will help you live your best life. Hello. Thank you for joining me once again. For my new listeners, thank you for tuning in and giving the show a shot. The show is really birthed out of the need to have more content from melanated people, for melanated people wanting to receive information around the spiritual energies of our times. And within that, the spiritual energies are connected to so many aspects of what makes us human, the human experience, the spiritual. And, if you survey 1 million people on the street, you're going to get 1 million different answers. This happens to be my answer and a connection to my higher power and connection to this higher frequency that I've attuned to. Taken some years. I've taken quite a bit of years to take the time and energy to heal. And I also recognize there's so many things that I'm learning constantly on my journey and on my path. And so on the show, I integrate a lot of astrology. I integrate a lot of energy healing, some new age topics, and bring a little bit of color to those topics that oftentimes I think we associate with white people. So the energies of this week. I just want to talk about the energies of this week as it relates to the astrology, because astrology can be seen as like kind of a forecast of the energies that you'll be able to work with more, to have more access to. It's this concept that the planets have certain characteristics, and as they move around, we have certain experiences that are in collaboration with those experiences of the planets. Right now, we just entered, the sun has been kind of swirling in this energy of Libra. We're in Libra season. We've had Venus in Libra and Mercury. Now it's moved on to Scorpio, and Venus recently moved on to Scorpio. And so the energies that are kind of pulling in are these energies around transformation, and I would say transforming our relationships. And so I don't know if you've noticed within this past 2 weeks, the universe kind of putting you in situations where you're having to face relationships. Facing relationships that have ended and that are just kind of putting the capstone of closing out those relationships or having them be transformed. And so there's a theme. Like, we can transform our relationships. And within the Libra theme, a lot of people think that when you say the word relationship, that it means romantic relationship. But Libra isn't about just romantic relationships. It does cover that, but it goes well beyond romance. It goes into your business relationships. It references your friends and your family. Basically, anything that's not you, anyone who's not you, that's Libra. It's one-on-one. If you start getting into groups of people, that's more so Aquarius energy. But Libra energy, the 7th house specifically, those energies are about other and how other people become mirrors and reflect to us who we are. It is in fact impossible for anyone to really know who they are without another person being there, because people help give us an understanding of our values. When we interact with people, we understand what we care about, who we are, what we identify with. We see our behaviors play out. We see compassion around us, or we see cruelty. Other people really are the best teacher. And that's why a lot of people go into relationships, romantic or business partners, because they're wanting to learn something and have a expanded experience. So in these times where we have the Scorpio energy coming up and we have the Libra, Spirit is speaking to me around that there's an opportunity to transform relationships. And what's great is that if you've been wanting to transform a relationship with your partner, with your business partner, with a coworker, with your child, with whomever, these are the most favorable energies to work with that. And that's why it's so beautiful to work with astrology, because you're working with the energies that are present. Hence, it'll be a lot more easier for you to find that you can. It's just an easier flow when we work with the energies that are available to us. How, right? Like how do I allow myself to be in this state of transformation with this individual? I want to speak to this energy called momentum. Momentum is a term that Abraham Hicks, who's a law of attraction teacher, uses all the time. Momentum is this idea that over time, when we think a thought, that it grows and grows and grows, and it builds and builds and builds. And you could think of it as like a train, and that the train has momentum and it's going in one direction. Now that train could be going in the direction towards what you really care about and what's beneficial, or it could be going in the opposite direction. And within each and every relationship, you either have a train that's moving towards joy and liberation and connection and compassion, or you have a train that's moving in the opposite direction. Now, of course, there's subtleties in a relationship and there's nuances, and sometimes when you're with someone, you feel harmony, and sometimes you feel disharmony, and there's an ebb and flow. But all in all, there's a general vibration that you have. And the people that you have a really big resonance with, those are called soulmates. People that it's not hard for us to get along with them. It's really easeful. Some soulmates can definitely be the opposite of that, but for the purposes of the relationships that we're talking about, let's just stick to our soulmates that are really easy to connect with. So we have soulmates, we have kindred souls, we have people in our lives that challenge us, that are called karmic soulmates, which is what I guess I was just sharing, like the hard soulmates, the karmic ones. And so within our relationships and within our general friendships, people who aren't soulmates but that are really, we feel still a close resonance with them, we have multiple ways in which the train is either moving in the direction of joy and bliss and love or not. And so when we think about it, and I know maybe I invite you to just think about, who is this person in your life that I'm speaking to, right? Who is the partner that either you're feeling a sense of, oh man, what's going on with this person? Or maybe they're illuminating something in you that's uncomfortable, that's making you have to own up to something about you. Either way, there's a opportunity for transformation. That's Scorpio energy again, right? Transformation. So within that, we have the trains. And so Spirit is showing me, like, as we work on ourselves and as we work on not taking offense or having compassion for ourselves as it relates to frustrations or confusion with other people and on our relationships, and most specifically, as we work with the energy called forgiveness. Now, forgiveness is actually an energy. Many people are like, oh, it's just a nice thing to do. No, forgiveness is the most powerful energy healing practice that I would say it's one of the most powerful known to man. And it cannot. Sometimes it can be simple, but sometimes it can be extremely challenging to forgive. Because a lot of people associate forgiveness with being weak, or they recognize that, why am I going to forgive someone when they were the ones who were at fault? But forgiveness ultimately is always beneficial to the person that feels like like they've been wronged. It's a beautiful mechanism. Recently in the news, we had this beautiful young Black boy forgive this woman who was sentenced with 10 years in prison for killing his brother. And I have no, I'm not going to weigh in on my opinions around that sentence, if it's fair or not, but I watched the video. I watched the video of that young boy hugging her and asking her, to come to Jesus, and to just asking her to just give her life to something higher. And in that moment, I think the whole world, the whole nation who witnessed this story had different reactions. I was told that some people, specifically a lot of people in the Black community, were not for that. They were like really upset seeing that boy forgive this woman. And he, if you watch the video, they're in court. He's looking at her. He's clearly like calm and collected, and he's done some real inner work to be strong enough to be prepared to look her in the eyes and to tell her that he forgives her and that he loves her, and that he knows that he ultimately wants her to have the best life, and that he doesn't want her to go to jail. That just basically just a lot of blessings for someone who killed his brother. And so what we're witnessing is a very young child who understands the power of forgiveness. He recognizes that if he doesn't forgive her, then forever he is going to be in this really cursed place. And that energy, that momentum will build, and then he'll be on the train of hatred. And in this country, there are a lot of people riding the train of hatred. They're riding this train of destruction and chaos, and they don't have an understanding of how to get off the train. And there is no getting off the train, because the train is the ego, it's the self. But what we can do is we can slow the train down by not adding any more fuel. We don't add any more fuel or any more energy into acknowledging the things about people that we don't like, the things about people that we can't stand or that we hate. And once we stop acknowledging that energy, the train stops and it starts to go in the opposite direction, towards having love and compassion. Love and compassion for individuals. There's a powerful Hawaiian practice called Ho'oponopono, which is this practice of unconditional forgiveness, love and kindness and forgiveness. And it is a deep forgiveness. It's like, I love you, I'm sorry, will you forgive me? Ho'oponopono. I invite you to look that up. And it's a very ancient and wise Hawaiian frequency of energy. And so earlier I said, that forgiveness is about the one who's been wronged. And so within that, what I've come to find, especially as a melanated woman, if I'm working with people on a project and I feel wronged, especially if I'm the only person of color, only Black woman working on a project, and I feel wronged, just the strength that it takes to practice Ho'oponopono, the strength that it takes to forgive someone, specifically a white person, when I know that they're passing judgment on me as a Black woman. Like, it's quite an interesting dynamic. It's an interesting dynamic moment, because there's this recognition that there is a strength within me, and there is a willingness to let myself be seen in this way, to be seen in a way, and it could be misinterpreted as being weak or vulnerable, but I really get to define, we all do. You get to define what that is. That boy got to define and be empowered in a moment of forgiving this white woman who killed his brother. and the backlash from the Black community. And this is something that we have to talk about. We have to talk about this. We have to unpack this. We have to unpack this idea of what it means. You know, he got so much heat from the black community, saying that he should have never forgiven her, that's what she did was so horrible, it's unforgivable, how dare he forgive her. And there's a recognition, of course, that it's like there's only so much injustice before there's anger. There's anger. There's only so many babies that people can kill. And we're angry. And that anger, that hate, it fuels the train. It fuels a train. And Martin Luther King Jr. recognized that. You know, Martin Luther King Jr., I feel like, has a lot of Libran qualities, because Libra is also the energy of justice. It's the energy of balance, but it's the energy of balancing things with diplomacy and with, it's not forceful. It's a pacifist type of vibe, you know, and some people would be a little afraid of that, right? Like, what do you mean being pacifist? Like, we can't afford to be pacifist. That's putting us in jeopardy. That's making us vulnerable. There's a recognition, though, that we're always vulnerable. Even if we think we're in control, like, we're not really in control. There's always a layer of vulnerability that we chose to be a part of in incarnating as a human. And so it's like, yeah, you could be in control of your relationship. Going back to you out there, you could be in control of that relationship. And you could see if you could step outside of the matrix and step outside of the normal way in which you approach a situation. You know. And I want to put a person to it. So, for instance, I was in the kitchen just now, and the CEO of the organization that I'm at right now, I feel very shunned by her, very shunned. Like, I don't feel warmth from her. And part of me was like, oh, like, I'm going to take that to heart a little bit. I'm going to be a little like, Then I was like, oh, that's an old energy. That's an old energy. I know she's this white lady. She's the CEO of this thing. And what I need to recognize is that I have to hold my light. It's so important for me to hold my light. And in relationship to her not wanting to connect with me, that energetically means that I need to hold my light even brighter. And the same goes for everyone listening. There are people who are not going to like you and want to connect with you. And a huge part of it is that there could either be a pivot towards recognizing that, or there could be a compassion for that. You know, I recognize that when I'm in a space, when I'm in the office space, that I bring so much light into the environment. And a huge part of me bringing that light into the environment is not to be it's to be of service to me. I like seeing myself be nice. I like seeing myself, regardless of other people's prejudice, their judgment, whatever the story is. I like to know that I am in connection with my moral fibers. And I actually appreciate the contrast of having someone push against that. Because in a way, it feels like I'm becoming this stronger force of light. And that's the energy of Scorpio. It's this kind of crucible that will press you. And it won't be comfortable most of the time with Scorpio. It's always done in a way that's a little uncomfortable. And the lack of comfort is the thing that helps us grow and pushes us in towards a new trajectory. And so there's this opportunity in your relationships to turn and face that energy and to forgive. And every day, I go home, I forgive everyone I've worked with. I forgive all the people I know and don't know. I forgive myself. I forgive all of the unconscious things that I've done to hurt people. And I feel all of my energy return back into my body. A lot of personal power gets tangled in the inability to forgive. I forgive microaggressions. And because of it, I don't feel oppressed by it. There's not a sense of like, oh, this person's holding me back. They're not. They're in their own process, and it's not my energy. So when I forgive, is what Spirit's saying to me to share with you all. When you forgive, you're basically saying, this is not my energy. And it's not saying return to sender, because that's not actually really healing anything. Return to sender doesn't actually allow there to be a sense of healing that can move the needle. When you're a healer, what you're saying is, may this energy that's come to me, that I've attracted, may that be sent to God. May it be like composted, however you want to decide how to determine that. So I'm seeing something you can do. I'm seeing just like this energy of Ho'oponopono, this Hawaiian prayer forgiveness. And I'm seeing you just creating a ball of light around yourself. And I'm seeing you just circling that energy, that prayer of forgiveness around yourself. I'm seeing that you can then see and visually kind of think about this other person that you would like to improve your relationship with. And then there's a specific saint that I like to work with, an ascended master, and that is Saint Germain. Saint Germain is this ascended master who I work with as an energy healer. And Saint Germain has the ability to dissolve toxic ties to people. You may have heard of this term as like cords. Like every relationship, every time we meet someone, we have a cord. We create a cord with them. And, the cords that are like your people that are really close to you, like your partner, your best friends, your children, those cords, the energy is flowing really, really deep, and the cords are thicker. The people who you barely see, that you don't really have that much connection with, those cords are thinner. But within those cords, there can also be some corrosion and some just stuck energy, just blocks and toxic ties. And so a lot of people have heard of this term like cutting cords, like when you you want to let go of a connection with someone who's being abusive or toxic, or you want to cut the cords. I'm still out to lunch on if that's actually a thing. I think you can definitely diminish the cord, and you can really severely limit the flow of energy in that cord. But I think cords only really get cut when people pass away, when their physical containers are gone. That's just my intuition. I think we can clear the cords. And so kind of back to this process I'm describing. So you have yourself, you have in a ball of light, you circle Ho'oponopono. You could say that word 9 times, which is 9 is the number of completion. And that just clears out the energy around you. You imagine the person in their ball of light, and you see the cord between you both. And the cord's probably going to be it's kind of like your umbilical cord. It's going to be right at that kind of belly area. That's the area of relationships. It's called your sacral chakra. It's where we connect in our relationships, all types of relationships. And so I'm just seeing the energy that Saint Germain brings into the mix is this energy of this thing called the violet flame. And the violet flame is this flame that burns away. It is a high frequency energy. Violet is one of the most highest vibrating light sources on the planet. So we're working with violet light. So if you were to close your eyes and see yourself in this spot, if you can close your eyes, you might be driving, but you can keep your eyes open, but just imagine yourself in a ball of light. Then you're going to imagine that you send a violet flame down the cord that connects you to that person. And what that does is that clears out the karma, that clears out the energy of that cord. Another thing you can do is you can burn the contract, the soul contract that you have with the individual. And that, I believe it's pretty simple to do it without having to go to an energy healer like myself. I think you can it depends on your willingness to want to do energy healing at that level. But it's you pulling up you drop into a meditative state. Once you're in a meditative state, you imagine that you can pull up the contract of you and this person. You light it on fire with violet flame. You burn it away. You pull up a fresh piece of paper and you write out how you want to interact with this person, the relationship that you want. You sign and date it. Maybe you run some golden light through it. You turn it, you spin it in the frequency of the greatest benefit for yourself and all beings everywhere. You turn it into a rose and you place it on your heart. So those are two different ways that you can clear the energy between you and an individual. Now, you want to know if this works? The answer is 110% absolutely it works. It works. And it's not about like you trying to do any like black magic and change anybody. What happens is just the energy shifts. And a huge part of it is that you're really sending this person light. It's called light work, right? You're sending this person light. And you're clearing up this energy between you. And it really shifts everything instantaneously. It's quite magnificent how it works. And so there's the opportunity for you to do that practice and to shift the frequency. And I just invite you to be with the opportunity to make something like that happen. Opportunity to heal and to create a sense of harmony. Spirit's wanting me to say before I close out this show for today, Spirit wants me to share, we really can heal the world. A lot of people are watching what's going down in the politics and these bigger landscapes and the really corrupt and horrible things that are happening, and one more horrible scandal after another. But the recognition is that we could put our focus on that train and ride it to hell. Or we could say, I'm taking my energy off of this train and I'm putting it on a train that's creating this sense of peace and love and balance. Which train are you on? Which train are you on? Are you willing to clear up your relationships? Because as we do this on an individual level, it ripples out into the world. I think we think we're so small and like this little relationship with home dude over here or sister over there, or person at work, that's not going to really change the world. It does. In our own little, there's like a spiritual theory around like it's like a small world theory, that if you just do your part in your little kind of niche, that makes a global impact. It really does. Like we're God, we're all connected, we're all light. And when we behave in a frequency that uplifts the light, that does make a difference in the world. Please don't feel disempowered in thinking that you don't matter and that your efforts to clear up your relationships are futile, because I'm here to tell you that that's not true. And especially as melanated people listening in, we have clearly a lot that we could be, we could say that we're really wounded about, and we would have every right to feel that way. And within that, though, when we do that healing work, when we do that liberation work, that really does make a big difference in healing the world. I believe that melanated people are the ones that are here to save the world. That we were born into these bodies in an unjust world to liberate it. And I think spirituality is just but one avenue to heal the world and liberate it. I'm a little biased. I think it's the most important thing. And so thank you for listening. Thank you for healing your relationships. Thank you for sending your relationships violet fire. Thank you for sending that person light. When you see that person next time, try to find 5 things about them that you love. And every time you look at the things you love about them, they have to become those things. That's the law of attraction. Abraham Hicks. Look Abraham Hicks up if you want to learn more about how to change your relationship with any and everyone using the law of attraction. I've done it with my father. I turned my father into a vegan, yoga, listening, beautiful man. All I did was just focus on the things I loved about him and commented on them. And so he rose to the frequency of who I wanted him to be. You can do that with any relationship. All right, I'm out of here. Peace, blessings, and love until next week. Namaste. Have so much light in your life. Love y'all.